Gopi Chanavana Girivarada Gopi Chanavana Girivarada Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Thira Vavanacha Yamuna Chira Vanachari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome, everyone. Hare Krishna to the morning class at the Bhakti Center, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11. Canto 11, General History, Chapter 3, Liberation from the Illusory Energy. So, verse 2, so 11:3:2. Nanutripya jushan yushma vachohari katamritam samsarata panistapto martuyastapapesham. Before I go to the synonyms, I will first seek the blessings of all of the assembled Vaishnavas here, and may I please speak something that is in line with Guru Sadhu and Shastra, and that is pleasing to everyone, and that may bind us more closely to the feet of Sri Krishna. So synonyms: na anutripya, I am not yet satiated; jushan, engaging; yusmat, your; vacha, in the words; harikata, of the topics of the Supreme Lord; amritam, the nectar; samsara, of material existence; tapa, by the misery; nistapta, tormented; martya, a mortal human; tat tapa, of that pain; beshaham, the medical treatment. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although I am drinking the nectar of your statements about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my thirst is not yet satiated. Such nectarian descriptions of the Lord and His devotees are the actual medicine for conditioned souls like me, who are tormented by the threefold miseries of material existence. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, one may argue that since the symptoms of a pure devotee of the Lord have already been elaborately described, one can perfect his life by advancing to the platform mentioned in the previous verse, and there is no need for further questions. But Hari Katha Amritam, topics about the Lord and His devotees, are so pleasing and beautiful that one cannot give up hearing them, even after spiritual liberation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this connection has quoted the following verse. Atma Ramascha Munhayo Nigranta Tapyurukrame Kurvanti Aitu Kim Bhakti Ittam Buddha Guno Hari. Those who are self-satisfied and unattracted by external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Sri Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendently attractive features. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:7-10. Material medicine is not desirable once a disease has been cured, but on the absolute platform, the means and the end are not different. So chanting and hearing the glories of Lord Sri Krishna are both the means and the end of transcendental bliss. King Nimi said to the sages, "You are all great saintly persons absorbed in love of Godhead. Therefore, although you will speak about Maya or illusion, the conclusion will undoubtedly be Krishna consciousness. Please don't think that you have already explained everything to me. The intoxicating nectar of your instructions has left me more eager than ever to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead." King Nimi was also a great devotee of the Lord. Otherwise, there would have been no question of his personally conversing with such exalted living entities as the 9 Yogendras. But as a humble Vaishnava, he considered himself an ordinary conditioned soul, covered by material designations. Thus, he showed his eagerness to understand the actual nature of Maya in order to be safe from her future attempts to place him in the burning fire of material existence. Om Aganyatimarandasya Kinanjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born into the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master is opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I bow to him with humble obeisances. I bow to my own spiritual master with most humble obeisances to the worshipful lotus feet of His Grace Madan Gopal, and also to my Guru Ma, Manasi Ganga Mataji, my spiritual parents, who continue to support me in these first stumbling steps in bhakti. Again, seeking the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas on this call, we can dive into the verse. So I would say one of the rare advantages to having so recently made the transition from being an audience member on this call to a speaker on this call is that I know how you feel, especially those of you in the audience like me who are relatively new to Bhakti. And we eagerly gather here every day and we just cherish the pearls of wisdom that we get from all the speakers. But we often lose the plot. I'll admit that oftentimes I don't remember exactly what's going on. And I know that, King Nimi is speaking and Narada Muni is there, but how's he related to Vasudeva? And what is a Yogendra anyway? And we have these basic questions that we're afraid to ask. So I'm going to take advantage of this verse, which is a little bit of a pause in the action, to reflect on where we are and set the stage, because I find when I understand what's going on and I understand who's speaking to whom why, that actually the philosophy sinks in a little bit deeper. So I'm going to literally set the stage, and I'm going to ask you to come with me on an imaginary journey 40 blocks north of the Bhakti Center to the theater district, to Broadway, where we've just scored tickets to the season's hottest show, Srimad Bhagavatam, the play. And it's actually the hottest show every season. It's the longest running show on earth. But we're in the lobby of the theater, and it's intermission. And we've just seen the most fantastic first act called the 10th Canto. And Krishna stars in every scene of the first canto, and he has literally stolen every scene. He's stolen our hearts. We can't get enough of him in the audience as he acts out his pastimes on earth. And we're excited now in the lobby during intermission, and we're going to take our seats for the second act of the play, and it's called the 11th Canto. And before the curtains open, we hear an announcement that says, Krishna will not be appearing in any of the scenes of the second act. What? The audience is a little bit startled. Krishna is not going to appear on the stage in any of the scenes in the 11th Canto, the second act? Okay, we settle back, the curtain opens, and the stage is full of the most beautiful people, charming, righteous, glorious, sparkling people, the Yadus. These are actually Krishna's people. He's of their dynasty. And we think, phew, okay. Let the action begin. So in the front of the stage, there are gathered sages, wise men, who've actually been called to this location by Krishna. And they've been called to a town called Pindaraka, which actually still exists today. And it's near Krishna's home city of Dwarka. And the sages are there, and they're gathered, and these small boys come up to them, and the small boys are also wise, but they're wise guys. They're a little proud, these young boys, they're a little arrogant, and they think they're going to play a trick on the brahmanas. And they put a pillow in the belly of one boy, and they dress him up as a girl, and they say, oh, sages, this black-eyed woman is about to give birth. Is she going to give birth to a boy or a girl? And the sages are furious, and the stage turns black, and there's lightning on the stage. And the sages say in unison to the boys, you will not give birth to a boy or a girl. You will give birth to an iron club that will destroy the Yadu dynasty. And with Broadway stage magic, we see inside the fake belly of the boy and there's an iron club inside. And the boys are like, holy cow, what have we done? We've destroyed the Yadu dynasty. And sure enough, the iron club starts to shake in his belly. And then we see off stage that Krishna is off stage and he's actually holding a magnet. And the boy starts to magically move across the stage, the iron club pulling him towards Krishna. All the beautiful Yadus on the stage also start to shake. They have this iron dust in them, and they are all pulled off the stage in this fantastic act of magnetism. And we realize that Krishna is so wonderful that even when he's not on the stage, everything he does has lessons. Everything that he does has magic for us. And the lesson here is that no matter what our privilege and position in our life, we should never be too proud. We should always give respect to our elders, especially our elders in spiritual life. And so, but we also realize that Krishna has actually pulled all the Yadus off the stage because he wants to be with them. And he's going to actually exit the theater with them and go on and live his pastimes with all of the Yadus. But we notice on stage that there's left one person on the stage. His head is in his hands, and we think, I know him. I recognize him from the first act of this play. That's Krishna's father. That's Vasudeva. And Vasudeva has his head in his hands, and he's saying, what have I done? Krishna has taken all the Yadus with him, and he's left me here. Why? Why did he leave me? On further reflection, I realized that even though I was meditating for thousands of years and performing great sacrifices, and I could ask for anything, I asked for Krishna to be my son. And now I see that a son is a blood relative. That means that I just still had a material conception of life. Oh, why didn't I worship Krishna when I had a chance on the path of pure devotional service? And then I could have been taken with him, with the Yadus, but I'm stuck here. What am I going to do? How am I going to find the path of pure devotional service now? And then we look up and we see someone jump from the balcony of the theater, and he's flying through the air with Broadway magic. You can't even see the wires. And he lands on the stage next to Vasudeva. And Vasudeva says, Narada Muni, how is it that every time someone thinks of you, you appear? I was just thinking you're the perfect person who can help me answer this question of how can I obtain the path of pure devotional service to the Lord now that I have missed my opportunity and asked for him to be my son? Narada Muni turns to Vasudeva and he says, Vasudeva, that's an excellent question. It reminds me of an ancient conversation that took place long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. And now from the side of the stage, a big horizontal screen comes out, a digital screen that's in front of Narada Muni and Vasudeva, but we can still hear them speaking. And Narada Muni says to Vasudeva, long ago, there was an ancient king, so long ago that he actually was the grandson of Manu, the first man. His name was King Nimi. And his grandfather, Manu, the first man, you remember, descended from the sun god. Everything on earth descends from the sun. And you may remember, Vasudeva, that Krishna actually sang the Bhagavad Gita to Manu, to the sun god, who passed it on to Manu, who passed it on to his grandson, King Nimi. So that's how ancient King Nimi is. And King Nimi was a righteous king. And that long ago, the air was so clean and the water had just come from space to the Earth planet. And it was so pure that the food was so clean that it didn't rust the cells of human beings like it does today. And people lived for thousands of years. And King Nimi was so wise, he used 1,000 of his years to offer an elaborate sacrifice to the Lord. He memorized 1,000 years worth of verses and hand gestures. And we're seeing this all on the screen in front of Vasudeva and Narada Muni. And the opulence with which he offered to the Lord. The sacrifice went on for 1,000 years. This is on the left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side of the screen, Narada Muni continues. There was another ancient king, King Rishabhadev. And King Rishabhadev had 100 sons. His eldest son was Bharata, for whom the planet at the time was named, Bharatavarsha, and for whom India today, its real name is still Bharata, named after this eldest son. The rest of his sons King Rishabhadev were wise brahmanas, but 9 of them were yogendras. And now on the screen, these little pixels appear to the right, and they materialize into 9 young, sexless, hairless, white, glowing, bodied, illuminated boys. And Narada Muni says to Vasudeva, a yogendra is a master of yoga. Yoga means united with God. The 9 yogendras are always in relationship with Lord Krishna. They are Krishna conscious. And the 9 yogendras then melt on the screen into pixels again, and they move over to the left-hand side of the screen in front of King Nimi. And we hear behind the screen Narada Muni say to Vasudeva, the 9 yogendras were so liberated, they were actually expansions of Krishna, and they could travel throughout the universe naked, uninhibited. And when they landed in front of King Nimi, they said in unison, we are the 9 yogendras. We are naked and uninhibited and travel through the universe to offer blessings and lessons to all. We are very impressed with your sacrifice. We have come to observe. And King Nimi was so wise that he knew right away that these were expansions of the Lord himself and offered obeisances as is proper. And he also didn't waste any time asking them about the weather or their transcendental journey or their Akadashi Vrat. No, he asked them right away, what is the highest thing in life? And how does one engage in devotional service of the Lord? And Narada Muni behind the screen says to Vasudeva, now Vasudeva, listen up. This is the exact question you were just asking. How does one engage in devotional service to the Lord so one can be with him again and go with him? And he says, listen up. One of the yogendras, Kavi, is giving the answer to your question. And the 9 yogendras on the screen pixelate again, and they form into one yogendra. And the yogendra says, now listen carefully, because this is actually the meaning of life. The highest good is a process prescribed by the Supreme Lord himself, known as Bhagavat Dharma, or devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In accordance with the particular nature you have acquired in conditioned life, whatever you do with body, word, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, you should offer to the Supreme, thinking, this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayana. Fear arises when you mistakenly identify yourself as the material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. When you turn away from the Supreme Lord like this, you forget your essential position, your dharma, as servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is created by the potency for illusion called Maya. Therefore, you should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom you should accept as your worshipful deity and your very life and soul. Although the duality of the material world does not ultimately exist, you are experiencing it as real under the influence of your intelligence, which is colored by the material world. This imaginary experience of a world separate from Krishna is like dreaming or desiring. When you dream at night of something desirable or horrible, or when you daydream, you create a reality that has no existence beyond your own imagination. Therefore, you should control your mind, restricting it from the illusion of seeing things separate from Krishna. And when the mind is thus controlled, you will experience actual fearlessness. When you have controlled your mind and conquered fear, you should give up all attachment to material objects, such as wife, family, and nation, and should wander freely like us without embarrassment, hearing and chanting the holy names of the Lord, which are all auspicious and sung throughout the world. And by chanting these holy names of the Supreme Lord, you will come to the stage of loving God. Then you will be fixed in your vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and gradually you will become very much attached to a particular name and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And your heart melts with ecstatic love. You will laugh very loudly, or cry, or shout. Sometimes you will sing and dance like a madman, not caring what the public thinks. You should not see anything as being separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. All living beings, the trees, plants, the rivers, and ocean, whatever you experience, consider to be an expansion of Krishna. Then seeing everything that exists within the creation as the body of the Supreme Lord, Hari, you should offer sincere respects to the entire expansion of the Lord's body. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things, these three things occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. My dear King, the devotee who worships the feet of the infallible personality of Godhead with constant endeavor thus achieves unceasing devotion, detachment, and experiences knowledge of God. In this way, the successful devotee of the Lord achieves supreme spiritual peace. And now we hear Narada Muni from behind the screen explain that King Nimi then went on to ask about different levels of devotees of the Lord and how he might recognize them, as well as the nature of Maya and illusion. And here our imaginary journey ends. And we're back at today's verse. And Narada Muni is relaying to Vasudeva that King Nimi then said to the 9 Yugendras, yes, you have told me about the highest good and how to achieve the purpose of life. But don't think that is it. I'm not full. I'm not satisfied yet. That's not all I need. I need more. And it reminds me of like when you read a favorite bedtime story to a child and you get to the end and they say, read it again. And then you get to the end and they say, read it again. It's never enough. Even liberated souls always want to hear more about Krishna and his pure devotees. So I'm going to ask you to join me on one final little imaginary journey. It's on this planet, although sometimes it didn't seem like it, to the country of Kenya, where I had the amazing privilege recently of going on yatra with my dear Gurudev Madan Gopal and my Guru Ma Manasi Ganga Mataji and my god siblings. And we went to follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada in Kenya and visited all the temples that he established there, including a most fantastic temple in the city, the super cool city of Mombasa on the Indian Ocean. And the temple was my first open air temple, so the walls were open to the sky. It was white marble, which reflected the brilliance of the sun. There were peacocks ambling the grounds, monkeys frisking along the walls. And I was chanting japa one morning, and there were posters printed, really tastefully placed around the entire temple of verses from Shastra. And as I was chanting my japa one morning before the sun rose, I opened my eyes and I looked at this verse. And have you ever swallowed food without chewing it? And you kind of have that moment of like, and then it kind of goes down. Well, I opened my eyes and I saw this verse and I had that moment of, because it went straight into my heart, undigested. And I was so intrigued by it. I actually took a picture of the verse and I thought, why has this verse come to me? And now I see that this verse perfectly encapsulates what I've been seeking to share this morning. It's from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 19.167. When first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy, and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably, as Krishna desires. Hare Krishna. So I'm stopping 2 minutes early because, as you might be able to tell, I'm at work and I have what they say in the corporate world, a hard stop that I have to jump off right before 8. So I'm stopping a tiny bit early in order to see if anybody has any comments or questions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Venu Madhuri. That was the most cinematic class, Srimad Bhagavatam class I've ever heard. I'm not used to being in the movies in the morning, but it was great. It was very visceral. Jamuna Jai has her hand up, followed by Gail.
Wow, I just want to jump on and have appreciation. I put in the chat box, Madame Gopal, you're here. She has started to chant like you. When you were chanting the verse, it's like I hear her, literally hear her guru's voice through you. You sound so much like him. I don't know if anybody else heard that, but it was just like, wow, it's like hearing Madame Gopal chant, which I love so much when he chants the verses. So I thought you were totally embodying your guru in the most wonderful, wonderful way. And it just made me so happy. And man, I will buy a ticket to this show. I think that you should do the one woman show on Broadway and we were all come and support. So thanks for walking us back. And it is true. Sometimes we get like just like in life, we get caught in the minutia and forget the overall arch of the thing, right? Just in life. And you reminded us of the overall arc of this beautiful journey in such a beautiful, engaging way. So thank you so much. And you're blessing your corporate environment by doing this in the corporate place. Sorry, Krishna. Thank you, dear one. That was just wonderful. Horrible.
I work for Con Edison, so I hope the blessings are coming to all of Con Edison's customers, which is every single resident of New York City. So, but thank you so much, Jamuna Jaya. There is no higher praise. I am a parrot and a child at my Gurudev's feet. So if I sound anything like him, it's because I try very hard to sound like him and emulate him in everything he does. So Hare Krishna, thank you so much for that. And also being a performer yourself, it's high praise coming from you. So thank you so much, Jamuna Jaya. Hare Krishna.
Gail?
Hare Krishna. I knew that this was going to be a can't miss class, and it was. So I'm not going to be redundant. I'm just going to say ditto to everything that Jamuna Jaya said. And I was thinking myself too that yeah, that is high praise coming from a person who is a performer herself. But yeah, I mean, I was captivated by your talk in a way I don't feel like I've ever been captivated before, like kind of spellbound. I was just, how should I say, in awe of how theatrically you presented, what could have potentially been, a kind of boring kind of subject matter, 11th candle. But anyway, yeah, you did the amazing thing. But really, my only question is, can you let us know? I know you said it reminded you of the the definition for pure devotional service, but that verse that choked you, right? It was different from the definition. It just reminded you of the definition. Is it like that? So I was wondering what the actual verse that choked you was.
Yeah, the verse that actually choked me was about first class devotional service. Um, and that, so in order, when the characteristics of somebody, Srila Prabhupada is describing, so the characteristics when somebody has achieved first class devotional service is that they must be devoid of all material desires. So again, we heard about that from the Yogendras, right? You need to um, uh, give up your material conception of life as well as your concept of family and nation. And so every single material desire you need to be devoid of is what we learn from the Yogendras. This knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy isn't so much exactly described by the Yogendras, but I think to me is it's related in that you kind of can't be you can't kind of have a screen between you and Krishna that is your knowledge and thoughts of him, no matter how sophisticated that philosophy might be, that only gets in the way. And then the last thing is fruitive action. And I know that the in this chapter, actually, they're going to go on and talk about karma and how to properly give the results of your actions to Krishna. So I think kind of like as King Nimi says, basically whatever you're going to talk about, it's going to come down to Krishna consciousness, and kind of any verse that really strikes you properly is going to come down to Krishna consciousness. But this one really, this is the thing that really hit me. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. I just felt that is really the essence of what the Yogendras are trying to convey, and what Narada Muni in turn is trying to tell Vasudeva, that is the essence, that we must come to the place where we constantly serve Krishna favorably and as Krishna desires. And we do that by the steps that are being laid out, and we do that through worshiping at the lotus feet of our spiritual master, because he is the one who can tell us what Krishna desires, and we can kind of model this behavior of selflessness and worship in our interactions with the spiritual master. So I just felt like it wasn't like a one for one, but it really kind of was the essence of what was being conveyed in this chapter so far, in the 11th chapter. Canto.
Please bless me so that can hit, because we hear this all the time, but please bless me so that it can hit me the way it hit you one day soon, like yesterday. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, my dear God sister. That class was so captivating. I'm actually sitting right here with Sky, and she's 4, and she could really relate to the bedtime story. Mommy, read again. And that's exactly what we wanted you to keep going. But I do have a question, and it's kind of simple, and I guess something we practice every day. But what's more of a realistic way that we can practice offering everything to Krishna? Because I think of it, it's like, right, like offer my food, but really, like, I think down to the nitty gritty, like I go to the store and I buy something, like, should I be taking that to the altar first, or can I kind of mentally offer it? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's about mentally offering, but I also just want to say I am about 4 years old in my Krishna consciousness, so I very much relate to keeping it simple. Yeah, I think in terms of offering everything, like even beyond material objects, something that Gurudev shared with me when I asked, how can I be more Krishna conscious at work? And one thing he said really stuck with me. There were a bunch of things, but one thing was, if you do something really well, like say you get accolades, and this in your day, Stephanie, too, like I know you just organized a massive event for the PTO that was like no joke, with many, many moving parts, and was like a play of its own to put on. And people probably came up to you afterwards and said, "Oh, Stephanie, that was amazing. You did such a good job." Offer that praise to Krishna, offer it to Gurudev, but also offer it to Krishna. Any talent that you have is only coming from Krishna, and it's very easy to get puffed up and think, "Oh, I did a good job." But anything that you do well, and people compliment you, or even that you're just think like, "Oh, I did that. I'm glad that went well." Offer it to Krishna and say, "Krishna, you gave me this ability." We're just breaking fast, and I drank a sip of water, and I was so grateful. And I said, thank you, Krishna, for this water. It's a miraculous substance. It really came from outer space to this planet. We can't take it for granted. It's not always going to be pure. So, when you drink water, you can offer that to Krishna. You can offer really everything. And it's not necessarily a physical thing and an altar thing. It's more just in your spirit and in your everyday day-to-day thoughts, your skills as a parent, your love for your child. All of these things, they come from Krishna. Sky and Sage's fantastic smiles, their abilities, all of these things come from Krishna. Offer them back to Krishna. When you offer flowers to Krishna, you say, you made these. You're the source of all beauty and all opulence and all wonder, and all I can do is just offer them back to you. Please accept them. And, you can look at your children the same way. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. That was such a great way to remember all that. And yes, and like my dear friend Prem always says, like, you can't even take a breath of air without Krishna. He's everything. Thank you so much, Venu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My dear Sundari Radha, Devi Dasi, Jai.
Thank you. Madan Gopal Prabhu, Hare Krishna. An exemplary guru-disciple relationship we're witnessing here. Please speak, Madan Gopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I'm just very grateful and feeling quite overwhelmed with appreciation and pride. Venu Madhuri Mataji, wonderfully presented. I think this is a very important quality, is to pull somebody into the Bhagavatam with you. Like, let's dive into this together. And Prabhupada would do that too, and he would open his eyes really wide when he's narrating something and from the stories, and he would really pull the entire room into the Bhagavatam with him. And so we try to follow in his footsteps, and anybody can follow. A small child can follow, grown-ups can follow, and so on. I think it's just so wonderful. I was reflecting on this verse itself. It's just so uplifting. Even the essence of it, that material life is, we experience satiation without satisfaction. But in spiritual life, there's satisfaction right away, but there's no satiation. So that's why this verse kind of brings that forward. And I really like that point here as well. The opening words, na anutripye, I'm not yet satiated. Means although I'm drinking the nectar of your statements about the Lord, my thirst is not yet satiated, and it never will be. And yet you feel satisfied. So that's the amazing part. You know, in material life, we eat until we are full. We scroll our phones until our thumb is numb. We achieve until we're exhausted. And the senses say enough, but the heart says still something is missing. That's why we keep pushing it. That's because material enjoyment can fill capacity, but can never fill our identity. The soul remains hungry, even when the senses are stuffed. You know, spiritual life is the opposite. From the very beginning, there's deep satisfaction. There's no satiation. The heart feels nourished immediately. Yet it never says, stop, that's enough. It always says more, more. That's why Venu Madhuri Mataji, when you said, read it again. Not out of greed, but out of love. That I love this. And when the mother is reading to the child the bedtime story, it's just more love being exchanged between the mother and the child. So this is what King Nimi is expressing in this verse, right? Although I'm drinking nectar of your words, describing Harikatha, my thirst is not yet satiated. It's a paradox. He calls it nectar. Nectar satisfies, and yet he says, natriptye, I'm not satiated. Why? Because this thirst is not a disease, it's a soul waking up. See? Material desire burns us, but spiritual desire heals us. And so when we hear Katha, especially so beautifully, freshly presented like this, with so much life and so much excitement, then we can share our excitement with others, and then others start resonating at that frequency, and everybody's soul is buzzing, as they say, with the appreciation. But I know there's a hard stop coming up in just a few seconds. Hare Krishna.
Good. I got another couple minutes. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Gurudev.
Venu Madhuri, how can you, being such a Vaishnavi, disciple of your guru, how can you function in the corporate environment? Do you have to switch personalities, or how do you do that?
No, not at all. And again, I take great, pleasure and example from my own Gurudev, who also straddles both worlds. And I think that so at 8 o'clock, I will be briefing one of the new board members about my organization. And I will convey to him with the same enthusiasm and love of Krishna my words as I did to you this morning. And it really, people can't understand, why are you so excited about your job? And it's Krishna in my heart. So it's all my words are coming from him and from my heart that's full of him. I hope one day to see him there. So some people may wonder about my kind of non-corporate beads. not wearing pearls anymore. And some people might wonder, why is she so happy? But other than that, it's pretty seamless. Haribol.
Thank you. Yeah, it's seamless when it's done properly, like Venu Madhuri is doing under the guidance of her Guru Maharaj. Sweet. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So I will jump and take your leave now, and please give my obeisances to Shri Shri Radha, Muralidhar and Gaurachandra. Haribol.
Thank you. Venu Madhuri Devidasi Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, we have one more minute before darshan. Would anyone like to speak in line with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra? Any reflections?
Maybe a quick question I thought of asking. So, how do we develop the taste for hearing again and again? She has already summarized, but maybe Madan Gopal Prabhu.
Yeah, we've heard some things before. You know the body, Chen Hare Krishna. How do we develop taste for hearing those things again and again and remain excited about them?
Yeah, almost time for darshan, but until then, we can say of course, the practice is a big part of it, but the secret is a secret to supercharge the development of taste. Like you can go from 0 to 60 in 1 second. That secret is in association, finding the association of someone who has taste and really absorbing that association. Like for example, even just spending really closely observing someone who has taste. Just look at what they do when the curtain of the deity opens. Like watch them really closely. Find someone who genuinely has taste. Watch her or him very closely. How do they approach their beats? How do they approach other devotees? How do they reflect and formulate their words with intention? Then we realize that the power of being with somebody who's living that, who's vibrating at that frequency, will really lift us up, and we'll get taste before we even know it. Like, wow, this is how it's done. Because there's only so much you can do with words. You want to see how someone behaves. So now we can turn on our cameras and welcome the Lord into our hearts as the curtain opens. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
की जय, वचन भगवान की जय। Open my heart and open my heart and the Lord. Be my Lord, birth after the Lord. For him ecstatic, by him it is destroyed. Today should continue with him. Our spiritual master is the ocean mercy, the benefit for water mountain. To the devotees, O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. Shelter at your lotus feet.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Jani Tai Prabhu. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Would anyone like to speak? Krishna Kumari, can
Hare
you
Krishna.
can you do what you do best?
I would love to. Oh my goodness. Their lordships this morning were so beautiful with a very simple cloth, but their personalities. Actually, Gaura Chandra today, he looks like the Pandit. He has this long kurta on, and he looks like he is just bedazzling all of Navadvip and all of New York with his beautiful smile and moon-like face. He's got golden necklaces and red necklaces and green necklaces, and he's got a braided turban that's a very beautiful green that's otherworldly. And Muralidhar, we heard that in Prabhupada's class, I believe it was yesterday, that this is like the most desirable form, this Dvija Muralidhar. He's got, today he's got his bugle and a golden rope for herding the cows. And I can tell you that when you have an ox, you definitely need a rope if you want to herd him and have him listen to you. And he's got his stick, a silver stick for herding the cows. And today he's got pearls adorning his Venu, Madhuri, his flute, and his earrings are like this sparkling blue and they're dangling. They look as though they're swinging just like his garland. He's got a a garland that's swinging towards his beloved, and a yellow necklace as well, swinging towards Radha. And Radharani today has a very high-waisted skirt. She has less jewels on her waist. She's very stunning. She's mostly bedecked with flowers today, with flowers in her braid. There's a certain pattern to the flowers. I don't know if that's a signal to Muralidhar of their next meeting, but her veil is see-through, and you can see beyond her Vrindavan, and her tika is sparkling. And she's got a couple of necklaces on, but really she's bedecked with flowers and bestowing grace on all of us with her bestowing hand. Shri Radha Muralidhar Gaurachandra Ki Jai.
Krishna Kumari, Janardhan, and their sanctuary Ki Jai. Sweet, thank you so much. All right. Karen, are Isaiah and Annabelle ready? Sanjay Radha, maybe Sage would like to chant too. Okay, there they are. All right, Krishna. Loudly, please, loudly.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Thank you very much. Isaiah, Sage, you best. That was loud, enthusiastic, sweet, sincere. Thank you. We want to chant like you. Thank you very much, Madan Gopal Prabhu, for your disciples, for your service to the Sampradaya, for benefiting us like that. Thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful day. We love you and we need you. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Jamuna Jai, what's that hat? Is that a braided turban? Yeah? Okay.